The council chamber was huge, floating in space between the stars. Leaders from 47 different alien species gathered inside the massive building made of crystal. They came from all corners of the galaxy, and today they were confused. The humans had called an emergency meeting, and nobody understood why. Commander Jake Morrison walked into the center of the room. He wore his dark blue military uniform, and beside him stood Ambassador Lisa Grant. She carried a small computer tablet in her hands. The room grew quiet as all eyes turned toward the two humans. A tall alien named Gistar raised 3 of his 4 arms. He was the mediator, the one who kept order during meetings. His voice came through a translator device built into the walls. The humans have asked for this emergency meeting. This is very unusual for such a new species in our alliance. Commander Morrison, you say there is a great danger. What danger could be so important? Jake took a step forward. His boots made a loud sound on the clear floor. Below the floor, stars slowly moved in the darkness of space. He looked at all the alien leaders before speaking. Honored council members, 3 months ago our space stations detected something strange in the Kepler Void region. What we found there will change everything we know about space travel and warfare. Lisa pressed a button on her tablet. A huge hologram appeared above everyone's heads. It showed a massive ship slowly rotating in the air. The aliens gasped and made sounds of surprise. General Krell, a reptile-like alien warrior, stood up from his seat. His face showed confusion and disbelief. This cannot be real. No ship that big can travel faster than light. It would need the power of an entire star just to move. Jake looked at the general calmly. That is exactly what we thought too. But then we tracked 17 of these ships coming out of dark space. They are moving together in formation, and they are heading straight toward our colonized sectors of space. Lisa expanded the hologram to show more details. Charts and numbers filled the air around them. These ships do not use normal engines. They do not use matter and antimatter reactors. They use something completely different. Something we have never seen before. A floating alien made of gas named Counselor Vera glowed with orange light. Even without a face, everyone could tell she was worried. If this is true, you humans have had 3 months to study this threat. What have you learned? Jake looked at Lisa, then back at the council. We believe these are ancient war machines. They might be millions of years old. They were sleeping, and now they have woken up. They are heading toward the center of the galaxy. At their current speed, they will reach the first populated planets in 16 months. The chamber erupted into chaos. Some aliens wanted to prepare their military forces immediately. Others demanded to see proof. A few aliens accused the humans of lying to gain more power in the council. Admiral Henry Cole stepped forward. He was an older man with gray hair and a tired face. He had fought many battles in space during humanity's short time with the other species. We understand your doubt, Henry said loudly, cutting through the noise. Humans have only been part of this council for 37 years. We are still new. We are still proving ourselves worthy. But we did not bring you here to waste your time. We brought you here because we have found a way to stop these machines. The room became completely silent. Gistar leaned forward in his seat. His large compound eyes glittered with interest. A solution? Commander, the combined fleets of this council have struggled for decades against the Kresh attacks, and those were simple ships compared to what you described. What could humanity possibly offer as a solution? Jake smiled, but there was no happiness in his expression. We would like to invite all of you to see a demonstration. Tomorrow at the Neptune shipyards in our solar system. We have been working on something in secret. Something that every expert in the galaxy said was completely impossible to build. Impossible in what way? General Krell demanded, his clawed hand gripping the arm of his chair. Lisa closed her tablet and looked directly at all the assembled aliens. Impossible as in breaking every known law of physics. Impossible as in using principles that should not work according to 5,000 years of galactic science. Impossible as in building ships that, according to your own engineers, cannot exist in reality. She paused to let her words sink in. The aliens looked at each other with confusion and growing curiosity. Tomorrow you will see these ships with your own eyes, and then you will understand why we called this emergency session. You will understand why we are the only ones who can stop these ancient machines. Gistar stood up slowly. Very well. The Council will send observer ships to your Neptune facility tomorrow. But know this, Commander Morrison and Ambassador Grant. If this is some kind of trick, if you are wasting our time or trying to manipulate us, there will be serious consequences for your entire species. Jake nodded seriously. We understand completely. But we are not playing games. What you will see tomorrow will shock you. It will make you question everything you know about science and engineering, but it will also give you hope. Henry Cole added his own thoughts. For millions of years, the older species have accumulated knowledge and wisdom. You have learned what is possible and what is impossible. You have created rules based on that knowledge. But humanity is young. We have not learned all your rules yet. Sometimes that is a disadvantage. But sometimes it allows us to see solutions that you cannot see. Lisa gestured to the hologram still floating above them. These ancient war machines are coming whether we are ready or not. They do not care about politics or diplomacy. They will destroy everything in their path. Your conventional weapons will not stop them. Your conventional ships will not even slow them down. You need something unconventional. You need something that breaks the rules. You need human engineering. The council members began talking among themselves. Some seemed intrigued. Others remained skeptical. But all of them agreed to attend the demonstration at Neptune. As the meeting ended and the aliens began to leave, Jake turned to Lisa and Henry. Do you think they will accept our help? Lisa asked quietly. They do not have a choice, Henry replied. Once they see what we have built, they will realize that humanity is not just another young species to be tolerated. We are the species that builds impossible things. And right now the galaxy needs the impossible. Jake looked out through the crystal walls at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, 17 ancient machines were moving through the darkness, bringing destruction with them. But humanity had a surprise waiting. Tomorrow the galaxy would see that humans were more than just newcomers. They were survivors. They were innovators. And they were about to change everything. The alien ships came out of the jump gate near Neptune, and immediately all their sensors started screaming warnings. Something was very wrong with the readings they were getting. What in the name of the spiral arms is that? General Krell muttered, his clawed hand gripping the armrest of his command chair tightly. The Neptune shipyard should have been a small, normal construction facility. Instead, what spread before them was a structure bigger than Earth's moon. Massive rings rotated in ways that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Energy patterns rippled across surfaces that made most alien sensors simply shut down, rather than try to process the impossible data. Admiral Henry Cole stood on the bridge of the human carrier called USS Valiant. Around his ship, dozens of Council observer vessels floated in space, their crews staring in disbelief at what they were seeing. Admiral Cole, Counselor Vera's translated voice crackled with concern. What exactly are we looking at? Henry stood with his hands behind his back, looking calm despite the tension in the air. What you are seeing is the result of humanity doing what we do best. We ignore the rules when the rules do not suit our needs. Captain Greg Palmer, who commanded the Valiant, brought up displays on the main screen. About 7 years ago, a human scientist named Dr. Karen Foster discovered something interesting. She was studying old Earth theories that most scientists had dismissed as impossible fantasy. She found a mathematical framework for something called the Alcubierre drive. We know of this theory, G-Star interrupted, his translator struggling to convey his tone. It proposes compressing space in front of a vessel and expanding space behind it. Every civilization discovers this idea eventually. Every civilization also discovers it requires exotic matter with negative mass. Such matter does not exist in our universe. It did not exist, Lisa Grant corrected him, standing beside Admiral Cole. Not until Dr. Foster discovered that dark matter, under very specific quantum conditions, can exhibit the exact properties we needed. She found a way to harvest it, stabilize it, and weaponize it. The word hung in the air like a physical threat. General Krell's reptilian features twisted with anger. You have been developing weapons from dark matter? Do you have any idea how dangerous that is? How many ways that could go catastrophically wrong? We do now, Jake Morrison said quietly, his voice heavy with memory. We lost our first testing facility. 300 people died in an instant. Then we lost the second facility. 500 more dead. But we learned from each failure. We adapted. We improved. And eventually we built something that actually works. As if responding to his words, the massive shipyard structure began to open. The rotating rings aligned perfectly, and space itself seemed to ripple and bend. What came out of the shipyard made every military officer in the observer fleet reach for their weapons instinctively. The ship was wrong. That was the first thought in every observer's mind. Its hull was black, but not the normal black of paint or metal. It was the black of empty space itself, as if someone had cut a ship-shaped hole in reality. The vessel was about 2 kilometers long, but its exact size seemed to change depending on which angle you looked at it from. Its shape hurt to look at for too long. Curves merged with sharp angles in ways that made no geometric sense. "This is the Horizon," Admiral Cole announced proudly, "the first of humanity's Void-class warships." A Zeltari scientist, her voice shaking, spoke through her ship's communication system. "This is impossible. The energy readings are showing negative values. That cannot be correct. Our sensors must be malfunctioning." "Your sensors are working perfectly," said a new voice. Dr. Karen Foster's image appeared on all the observer ship screens. The middle-aged woman looked exhausted with dark circles under her eyes, but her expression showed triumph and pride. "The Horizon does not push through space. It does not fold space like your ships do. It removes itself from space entirely and reinserts itself at the destination point." Counselor Vera's gaseous form pulsed rapidly with agitation. "You are describing dimensional phase shifting. That technology was banned by this council 4,000 years ago. The rendering wars nearly tore apart the fabric of local spacetime. Billions died. Entire star systems became uninhabitable." "We are aware of that history," Karen replied calmly, "and we are not using dimensional shifting. What we have developed is related but fundamentally different. The Horizon operates in something called the quantum foam layer that exists beneath normal space. It does not tear holes in reality. It slips between the threads of space-time itself." To demonstrate her point, the Horizon suddenly vanished. There was no flash of light. No distortion wave. No energy bloom. One moment the ship was there, solid and real. The next moment it simply was not. "Where did it go?" General Krell demanded, his voice rising with alarm. "Everywhere and nowhere," Jake answered with a slight smile. "Captain Pete Morgan, the Horizon's commander, is currently taking the ship on a tour of our entire solar system. He will return in approximately 90 seconds. In that time, he will visit all 8 planets, 17 major moons, and make a complete circuit through the asteroid belt." A Vorlan engineer protested loudly. "That is faster than quantum communication itself. You are claiming instantaneous travel across millions of kilometers. That violates causality. It violates the fundamental structure of the universe." Karen shook her head. "Not instantaneous, but close enough that the difference does not matter for practical combat purposes. The ship exists in the quantum foam layer where normal rules of distance and time do not apply in the same way." Exactly 90 seconds later, the Horizon reappeared in the exact same position it had vanished from. There was not even a small ripple in the surrounding space to mark its return. Captain Pete Morgan's voice came through the communication channel, calm and professional. "All systems are functioning normally. Ship is ready for the combat demonstration, Admiral." Jistar's translator could not fully hide his concern. "What combat demonstration?" Admiral Cole turned to face the council observers directly. "You wanted to know if we can stop those ancient war machines. Now watch carefully." 3 jump gates opened at the same time and target drones came through. These were not simple targets. They were heavily armored military drones with shields that could withstand attacks that would destroy entire cities. They were programmed with advanced evasive maneuvers that made them almost impossible to hit. The Horizon did not move from its position. Instead, space around the 3 target drones simply changed. The drones found themselves turned inside out. Their shields were compressed into points of infinite density. Their metal hulls were spread across dimensional boundaries that should not exist. They did not explode into fire and debris. They simply ceased to exist in any meaningful way. General Krell whispered something in his own language that the translator could not process. His face showed raw shock. "The Horizon can manipulate local spacetime," Lisa explained to the stunned observers. "It does not fire conventional weapons like missiles or energy beams. It edits reality itself within a limited radius around the ship." "How limited is this radius?" Counselor Vera asked, her usual calm completely shattered. "Approximately 50,000 kilometers in full combat mode," Captain Pete answered through the communication system. "Our engineers are currently working on methods to extend that effective range even further." The entire observer fleet sat in complete silence. Even the various alien species' natural sounds of breathing or movement seemed to have stopped as they processed what they had just witnessed. Finally, Jistar found his voice. You have built an entire fleet of these vessels? Admiral Cole nodded. 17 ships are fully completed and operational. 40 more are in various stages of construction throughout our solar system. We expect to have 100 Void-class warships operational within 1 Earth year. General Krell stood up slowly, his military training warring with his shock. And you have done all of this in complete secrecy. While the Council believed you were building conventional defense ships, you were actually constructing reality-warping warships. We had no choice, Jake replied firmly. If we had asked for permission, you would have refused. You would have cited safety concerns, historical precedents, and 1,000 regulations. If we had revealed our research too early, someone would have tried to stop us. Someone would have called it too dangerous. And if we had failed, the entire galaxy would have lost whatever small hope it had against those ancient machines. He pulled up the tactical data again, showing the 17 massive contacts moving through deep space toward populated systems. These things are coming whether we like it or not. Your conventional weapons will not even scratch them. Your conventional tactics will not work. We needed something unconventional, something impossible by your standards, something that only humans would be crazy enough to attempt. The emergency council session started again 6 hours later, but everything had changed. The aliens no longer looked at humanity with patient tolerance. Now there was fear in their eyes, along with calculation and barely hidden anger. Counselor Bren, a crystalline being from Thalax, pulsed with red light. His translated voice was sharp with accusation. You have created weapons of mass destruction. Weapons that could reshape entire planets. Weapons that could collapse stars or tear holes in the fabric of space itself. And you did all of this without oversight, without permission, without any regard for the safety protocols we have established over thousands of years. Ambassador Lisa Grant stood firm, not backing down from his words. We followed human safety protocols. I will remind you that our protocols are the strictest in the galaxy when it comes to experimental technology. Yes, we lost people. We mourned them. We learned from every single failure, but we also succeeded where everyone said we would fail. Because no one else was reckless enough to try such dangerous experiments. Bren shot back angrily. Or brave enough, Jake Morrison interjected. With respect, Counselor, humanity has been part of galactic civilization for less than 40 years. In that time, we have been patronized. We have been dismissed. We have been told over and over that we lack the wisdom of older races. Maybe that is true. But maybe our lack of ancient wisdom is exactly what the galaxy needed right now. Admiral Henry Cole brought up new displays for everyone to see. While we have been developing our Void-class ships, we have also been tracking those ancient war machines more closely. We have identified them now. They are called the Harvesters in the oldest galactic records we could find. They appear every 50 million years. They consume all advanced technology they encounter to replicate themselves. Then they return to dark space hibernation until the next cycle. Jistar's forearms trembled slightly. The Harvesters are a myth, a legend, a story used to frighten young civilizations into maintaining technological humility and caution. They are very real, Dr. Karen Foster said, her holographic image appearing before the council, and they use principles similar to our void drives. That is exactly how we were able to detect them. We are operating in the same quantum foam layer that they use for transit. No conventional sensor system could have spotted them because they exist partially outside normal space. She expanded the display to show 17 massive contacts moving through the emptiness between stars. Each one is approximately the size of a small moon. Each one has the capacity to dismantle an entire planetary system in a matter of months. And there are 17 of them converging on the galactic core region where most of our civilizations exist. Counselor Vera asked quietly, "How long until they arrive at the first populated systems?" 14 months, Admiral Cole answered. Give or take 3 weeks depending on their deceleration pattern as they approach the Brel colonies. Then we mobilize the full Council Armada, General Krell declared, slamming his clawed fist on his chair. Every available warship, every defensive platform, every weapons satellite. We establish a defensive perimeter and we hold the line against them. And they will tear through your forces like they do not exist, Jake interrupted firmly. General, with all respect to your military expertise and experience, conventional weapons will not work against these machines. We have run hundreds of combat simulations. Even if you assembled every single ship in the galaxy, even if you had perfect coordination and tactics, The harvesters would destroy 90% of your fleet before you managed to cause any real damage to their hulls. He pulled up holographic battle projections that played out in the air above them. The simulations showed massive council fleets being systematically destroyed by the harvesters, with almost casual ease. The harvesters operate partially outside normal space-time. Your energy weapons will pass through them more often than they actually hit solid matter. Your missiles will detonate without causing damage. Their own weapons manipulate gravity fields and dark energy directly. They can crush a dreadnought warship into a sphere of compressed matter the size of a marble. General Krell's reptilian eyes narrowed as understanding dawned. But your Void-class ships can fight them effectively. Yes, Lisa confirmed with a nod. Because we are fighting on their level. We are using the same fundamental principles that they use. We can hurt them because we exist in the same quantum foam layer. It is the only way to achieve victory. Counselor Bren's crystalline form glowed with bitter light. So humanity saves the entire galaxy. How convenient for you. How politically advantageous. You will gain enormous influence and power from this. Jake's calm expression cracked and genuine anger showed through. You think we wanted this responsibility? You think we are happy about the pressure? About knowing that billions of lives depend on our success? We would gladly hand this technology over to you if you could actually use it effectively. But you cannot. Why not? Gister asked, leaning forward. If humanity can master this technology in just 7 years, surely the combined scientific resources of the entire council could do the same or better. It is not about resources or intelligence, Karen interrupted, her voice tired but patient. It is about psychology. Every other species in the council has millions of years of accumulated knowledge. That knowledge tells you that certain things are fundamentally impossible. You have built your entire scientific framework around quantum mechanics, thermodynamics, and relativistic physics. And you are absolutely right. Within that established framework, what we have accomplished is completely impossible. She smiled sadly. But humans are young. We are reckless. We still have scientists who believe in impossible things. We still have engineers who try to build devices that should not work. We have not yet learned to be limited by the wisdom of ages. Sometimes that gets us killed. But sometimes it lets us achieve miracles. So what do you propose? Counselor Vera asked, her gaseous form pulsing with different colors. That we simply hand over galactic defense to a species that has barely left its home solar system? Admiral Cole stepped forward. We propose a joint command structure. Humanity will provide the Void-class fleet and coordinate all offensive operations against the harvesters. The Council will provide strategic support, logistical networks, and conventional forces to protect civilian evacuation efforts. Evacuations? Bren's light dimmed with shock. You are planning to abandon entire sectors of space? We are planning for worst-case scenarios, Lisa said firmly. If we fail to stop the harvesters at the first defensive line, we will need to buy time for mass evacuations. That is where the Council fleet becomes critical, holding actions, delaying tactics, sacrificial rearguard positions. Anything to slow the harvesters down while we get civilians to safer systems. And if you succeed in stopping them? General Krell asked, his tone unreadable. Jake met the general's eyes steadily. If we succeed, we will have proven that humanity deserves a permanent seat at this table as true equals, not as newcomers to be tolerated and patronized. And we will have preserved a galaxy that is worth living in for all species. The council chamber erupted into heated discussion. Some species argued passionately for accepting the human proposal immediately. Others insisted on maintaining council authority and control over all military operations. A few even suggested trying to confiscate the Void-class ships by force and reverse engineer the technology for themselves. That last suggestion died very quickly when Captain Pete Morgan transmitted a simple but chilling message to all council members. The Horizon is equipped with a quantum destabilization device built into its core systems. If anyone attempts to board this ship by force or capture it, the device will activate automatically. It will take the ship and everything within 5,000 kilometers out of phase with reality permanently. All 17 Void-class ships have similar fail-safe safeguards installed. The chamber fell into tense silence as the implications sank in. Finally, after 3 hours of debate that sometimes grew heated, Gister called for an official vote. All species in favor of accepting the Terran proposal and establishing a joint defense command structure indicate now. 31 species voted in favor. 16 abstained from voting. Not a single species voted against the proposal. The motion passes with a clear majority, Gishtard declared formally. Admiral Cole, you and Commander Morrison will coordinate with General Krell to develop our strategic response to the Harvester threat. Dr. Foster, you will work with our scientific teams to help them understand the principles behind your technology, without compromising any security protocols you deem necessary for human safety. He paused, spreading all four of his arms wide in a traditional gesture of acceptance and respect. And to humanity, I offer the Council's gratitude and official acknowledgement. You have shown us that sometimes the newest voices speak the wisest words. Sometimes youth sees solutions that age has become blind to. Captain Pete Morgan stood on the bridge of the horizon, watching the holographic display that showed all 17 ships of humanity's Void Fleet gathering near Pluto. Each ship was a masterpiece of impossible engineering, arranged in a specific pattern that would make them work together like one massive weapon. Status report, Pete called out to his crew, his voice calm but focused. Lieutenant Commander Amy Wells, his tactical officer, responded quickly. All ships report ready, Captain. The Abyss, Singularity, Event, Nexus, Cascade, Phantom, Eclipse, Drifter, Umbra, Quantum, Paradox, Midnight Shadow, Twilight, Entropy, Vagrant, and Void Song are all holding position and awaiting your orders. Good. Have we received the final intelligence data from Council reconnaissance ships? Lieutenant Danny Price from the communications station answered. Coming through now, Captain. General Krell's scout fleet has confirmed the Harvester formation. They are maintaining their course and speed exactly as predicted. They will reach the Brel colonies in 13 months and 17 days. Pete studied the tactical information displayed in front of him. The Brel colonies housed nearly 4 billion peaceful beings across 6 beautiful planets. They were completely unprepared for the destruction heading toward them. Where is Admiral Cole right now? The Valiant is 3 light years away, coordinating the Council evacuation fleet, Amy reported. The Admiral sent a message saying we should proceed with Operation Threadcut exactly as planned. Operation Threadcut. Pete had suggested that name himself. They were going to cut the Harvesters off from the quantum foam layer, the ancient machines used for travel, forcing them into normal space where the Void Fleet could hurt them. At least that was the theory they had developed. Nobody knew for certain if it would actually work. Dr. Foster, Pete said, opening a communication channel to the science vessel traveling with the fleet. Are we ready to begin? Karen Foster's tired face appeared on his screen. Behind her, banks of sophisticated equipment monitored quantum fluctuations across vast distances of space. As ready as we will ever be, Captain. The resonance generators are calibrated to the exact frequencies we need. If this works correctly, we will create a bubble of stabilized space around the Harvesters. They will not be able to phase out of normal space when we attack them. And if it does not work, Karen's expression was grim. Then they will simply vanish into dark space and we will have no way to track them or predict where they will emerge. This is a one-time opportunity. If we fail, the Harvesters will adapt their quantum frequencies and we will never be able to trap them again. No pressure then, Pete said with a slight smile that did not reach his eyes. He turned to address his crew. All hands, go to battle stations immediately. Navigation, plot a course that will position us 30 million kilometers ahead of the Harvester formation. Engineering, I want the quantum drives operating at maximum efficiency. When we engage the enemy, there will not be time for adjustments or calibration. Lieutenant Steve Harper called out from the science station. Captain, I am detecting massive energy fluctuations from the other Void ships. They are synchronizing their quantum fields with ours. That is exactly the plan, Pete confirmed. For this operation to succeed, all 17 ships must function as a single coordinated unit. The resonance cascade requires perfect synchronization across the entire fleet. Amy pulled up multiple tactical simulations on her screen. Captain, even with the resonance trap working perfectly, we are still talking about engaging 17 moon-sized machines that have survived for millions of years. The combat projections are not encouraging at all. Combat projections never are, Pete replied quietly, but we have significant advantages. We are faster than them. We are more maneuverable. We can manipulate local spacetime in ways they might not expect. The Harvesters are incredibly powerful, but they are also predictable. They follow patterns and tactics established millions of years ago. We are going to use that predictability against them. He opened a communication channel to the entire fleet. All Void-class vessels, this is Captain Morgan. In approximately 6 hours, We are going to attempt something that every computer simulation says is impossible. We are going to stop a threat that has been unstoppable for millions of years. We are going to prove that humanity's refusal to accept the word impossible is exactly what this galaxy needs right now." He paused, letting his words reach every crew member on every ship. "But I will not lie to any of you. Some of us might not survive this battle. These ships are powerful, but they are still experimental. We are still learning their true limits, so I need every single person to perform at their absolute best. Trust your training, trust your ships, and trust each other." From all 17 ships, acknowledgments came back. Each captain, carefully selected from humanity's finest officers, responded in their own way. Captain Julie Hayes from the Singularity said, "We are ready to make history today." Captain Nick Foster from the Eclipse said, "Let us show the galaxy what humans can really do." Captain Laura Bennett from the Quantum said, "Standing by to engage the enemy." Pete closed his eyes for a brief moment, feeling the enormous weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. 17 ships, 17 crews, thousands of human lives depending on the decisions he would make in the chaos of battle. "Navigation," he said quietly but firmly. "Take us in." The horizon slipped smoothly out of normal space, and the other 16 ships of humanity's Void Fleet followed in perfect formation. They reappeared 30 million kilometers ahead of the Harvester formation, spreading out into a spherical formation that completely enclosed the approaching ancient machines. On every ship, sensors immediately began screaming warnings as they got their first truly clear look at the enemy. The Harvesters were not ships in any conventional or understandable sense. They were structures of impossible geometry. Their surfaces reflected light in wavelengths that should not exist in normal physics. Their forms seemed to occupy multiple dimensions at the same time. Each one was surrounded by a field of severely distorted spacetime that made direct observation almost impossible. "They are beautiful in a terrible way," Amy whispered, her voice barely audible over the bridge noise. "They are monsters," Pete corrected her firmly. "Activate the resonance generators now." Across the entire fleet, 17 Void-class ships began to hum with building power. The quantum foam layer that existed beneath normal space began to vibrate at a frequency that had never existed naturally anywhere in the universe. The Harvesters noticed the change immediately. 16 of the ancient machines continued on their original course without deviation, but one machine, the largest of them all, shifted its trajectory slightly. It turned to face the human fleet directly. "Contact," Danny announced tensely. "The lead Harvester is scanning us with unknown sensor systems. Captain, its weapons are beginning to charge up." "All ships maintain formation," Pete commanded, his voice steady despite the tension. "Do not fire any weapons until the resonance trap is fully activated and stable. We need them completely locked down in normal space." First, the universe seemed to hold its breath in anticipation. Then, the Harvester fired its first weapon. Space itself screamed as reality bent in ways it was never meant to bend. The weapon was not a beam or a missile. It was a localized collapse of space-time itself, a gravity well so impossibly intense that it should have crushed the horizon and everything around it into a microscopic singularity. Should have instead. The horizon's quantum field bent smoothly around the attack, redistributing the gravitational stress across dimensional boundaries that the Harvester's ancient targeting systems could not properly account for. "Shields are holding," Amy reported, her voice tight with controlled fear and adrenaline, but that was just a glancing hit. "A direct strike might overwhelm our defensive systems completely." "Noted and understood," Pete said calmly. "All ships begin evasive pattern delta immediately. Keep the Harvesters guessing while the resonance field continues building to full strength." The Void Fleet began its deadly dance through space and time. 17 ships flickered in and out of normal space like ghosts dancing through reality. They created a pattern of quantum distortions that surrounded the Harvesters like an invisible net. Each ship appeared in one location for only microseconds before vanishing and reappearing somewhere completely different. The Harvesters responded by firing all their weapons at once. The battle space filled with gravitational weapons that would have torn conventional ships into atoms. But the Void Fleet was not conventional in any way. Resonance cascade at 40%. Karen Foster's voice came through from the science vessel, now positioned safely far from the combat zone. "You are doing it perfectly." The quantum foam is stabilizing around the harvesters exactly as we calculated. One of the harvesters suddenly realized what was happening. It attempted to phase out of normal space, to slip back into the dark space layer where it had hidden for millions of years. It could not move. Target is locked in normal space, Lieutenant Steve Harper announced, with barely controlled excitement. The resonance field is working exactly as designed. All ships, Pete commanded clearly. Weapons are now free. Show these ancient machines what human creativity can accomplish. The Void Fleet struck as a single unified force. 17 ships manipulated local spacetime in perfect coordination, creating overlapping fields of contradictory physics. The harvesters suddenly found themselves subjected to impossible conditions. Gravity pulled in opposite directions simultaneously. Time flowed at wildly different rates across their massive surfaces. Matter phased between quantum states too rapidly to maintain any structural coherence. The largest harvester's surface began to show cracks spreading across its hull. "We are hurting it," Amy shouted with fierce joy, targeting its central core structure, firing quantum torpedoes now. The torpedoes were not explosive devices in the traditional sense. They were packets of concentrated quantum uncertainty, objects that existed in multiple states simultaneously until they collided with their target. When they struck the harvester, they forced the ancient machine to collapse into a single defined physical state, a state that was fundamentally structurally unsound. The harvester's impossible. Geometry began to unravel like a sweater with a pulled thread. But the ancient machine was not dying quietly or easily. "Multiple new contacts," Danny yelled urgently. "The other 16 harvesters are changing course. They are all turning toward us now." "Good," Pete said with grim determination. "The more attention they pay to us, the less they can focus on attacking the colonies. All ships maintain the resonance field at all costs. Do not let any of them phase out of normal space." The battle descended into pure chaos. 17. Human ships fought against 16 ancient machines in a layer of reality where normal physics were merely suggestions. Ships appeared and disappeared randomly. Weapons fired that bent the rules of causality itself. Space screamed under the impossible strain of forces it was never designed to contain. Captain Julie Hayes from the Singularity took severe damage when her ship briefly flickered into the same space as a harvester weapon. "Hull breach on decks 4 through 7. Emergency containment fields are holding. We are still in this fight." Captain Nick Foster's Eclipse executed a maneuver that normal physics said was absolute suicide. He flew his ship directly through a harvester's gravitational weapon field and used the extreme distortion to slingshot back at incredible speed, delivering a devastating close-range strike to the ancient machine's core. "That is for every species that never got a chance to fight back," Nick growled over the open fleet channel. The Void Song, commanded by Captain Lisa Monroe, made a critical discovery during the intense fighting. The harvester's dimensional phasing left a brief quantum echo that could be detected and targeted. She developed a targeting solution in real time and immediately shared it with the entire fleet. Target the quantum echo half a second before they attempt to phase. They are predictable if you know exactly what to look for. The tide of battle slowly began to turn in humanity's favor. One by one, the ancient harvesters fell. They were not destroyed in the traditional explosive sense. Instead, they were edited out of existence. Their impossible geometries were mathematically unraveled. Their million-year-old consciousness was scattered across quantum states that no longer connected to each other. But the cost in human lives was terribly high. The Cascade took a direct hit while protecting the Drifter from certain destruction. Its quantum drive began to destabilize catastrophically. Captain Roy Bell had exactly 60 seconds to evacuate his crew before the ship ceased to exist. "This is Bell. All crew are away in escape pods. Tell Admiral Cole that the Cascade died saving lives. That is a good death for any ship." The Cascade vanished completely, taking 3 harvesters with it as its drive finally collapsed. The Phantom's captain, Ellen Woods, pushed her engines far past safe operational limits to maintain the critical resonance field. She sacrificed her ship's structural integrity to keep the quantum trap active and stable. "Resonance field is holding steady. Phantom is at critical stress levels, but we are not giving up. Someone please end this battle quickly." Pete made a difficult command decision. "Horizon, Singularity, Eclipse, and Quantum form up on my exact position. We are going to hit the largest harvester with everything we have available. Everyone else keep the other harvesters contained and unable to help." 4 ships converged on the primary target. Their quantum fields merged together into a single overwhelming force of warped reality. They manipulated space-time in perfect concert, creating a pocket of reality where the Harvester simply could not physically exist. The ancient machine fought back desperately with weapons that predated most current galactic civilizations. It tore visible holes in space itself. It generated miniature singularities. It released devastating pulses of pure dark energy that threatened to scatter the human fleet across dozens of light years. But humanity had faced seemingly impossible odds many times before in its violent history. Now, Pete shouted at the critical moment. 4 ships released their quantum torpedoes in perfect synchronization. Each torpedo was targeted at a different dimensional layer of the Harvester's complex structure. The torpedoes struck simultaneously, and reality itself seemed to freeze for an impossible moment. Then the massive Harvester collapsed inward. Its impossible geometry folded into a single point of infinite mathematical complexity before simply winking out of existence. The remaining Harvesters paused in their attacks. Their ancient programming struggled desperately to process what had just happened to their leader. In that brief moment of confused hesitation, the Void Fleet struck with ruthless efficiency. 12 ships coordinated their devastating attacks with near-perfect precision. They targeted structural weak points. They exploited newly discovered quantum vulnerabilities. They refused to give the ancient machines any time to adapt to human tactics. One after another, the Harvesters were systematically destroyed. 3 exhausting hours later, the battle finally ended. 15 Harvesters completely destroyed. 1 severely damaged machine fleeing desperately into dark space, carefully monitored by long-range sensors. The Void Fleet reduced to 14 operational ships. Human casualties numbered in the hundreds, but thankfully not thousands. Pete sat heavily in his command chair, physically shaking with adrenaline crash and emotional exhaustion. All stations, status report immediately. All immediate threats have been neutralized or are retreating, Amy said quietly, her voice hoarse from shouting commands during the battle. The resonance field is dissipating naturally. The quantum foam layer is slowly returning to normal baseline stability. What about casualties? Amy's expression turned somber. The Cascade was lost with all hands despite evacuation attempts. The Phantom is barely holding together but can make it home with emergency repairs. The Umbra took heavy structural damage but remains spaceworthy. The Vagrant's captain, Joe Curtis, suffered a serious medical emergency during combat. He is stable now but needs immediate advanced medical treatment. Pete nodded slowly, feeling the weight of command settle heavily on his shoulders. Open a direct channel to Admiral Cole. Henry Cole's weathered face appeared on the main screen. His expression showed profound relief mixed with exhaustion. Pete, dear God in heaven. The long-range sensor readings we received here were incredible. You actually did it. You stopped them. We lost good people, Pete said quietly, his voice heavy with grief, and 1 Harvester escaped into dark space. It will hide somewhere, repair its damage, maybe return in another 1,000,000 years to try again. Let our distant descendants worry about that problem, Henry replied firmly. Today, right now, you and your fleet saved billions of innocent lives. You proved beyond any doubt that humanity deserves its place in this galaxy, and you did it by being exactly what everyone said we should not be: reckless, impossible to predict, and too stubborn to ever accept failure. Over the open fleet communication channel, the surviving captains and their crews began to cheer loudly. The sound spread rapidly from ship to ship, a powerful mixture of relief, grief for the fallen, and hard-won triumph that transcended species and circumstances. Dr. Foster, Pete said, opening another channel. How long until we can safely bring the fleet home?